And the thing that I always think is like if some of these older weights could tell the story of their history, how neat would that be to hear?
Yeah, where they been? Who's lifted them? How did they get some look better than others? Like what happened? What did that person use them for? What were they doing? Because at certain times, the earlier weights, what are they using for? Were they just on some kind of farm equipment? Were they actually lifting them? Like what was going on?
Welcome to the Shaw Strength Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Shaw, and today I am joined by my good friend, Joel Dirks. And Joel is a former strongman, kind of a grip expert. Can we use grip expert?
That's what we've been using, so we'll keep it.
Okay, so grip expert. I don't know if I'm going to quite give you that one yet, but you know, I mean, you're close. You're close up there, and we'll talk more about that. But it's great to have you in, man. How you doing?
Very good, man. It's always good to come out here and hit some of this different stuff with you that I don't get to see and get pushed on things I don't normally get pushed on.
Yeah. I mean, you've been out here. You were out here for the Shaw Classic weekend, which was fun. Joel actually did a lot of the behind the scenes work, mainly for the grip events that we put on. And so Joel was instrumental in, I guess, kind of facilitating that, really. I mean, we talked about it. I said, hey, I got this idea, but I don't really have the bandwidth to do too much on that front. So what should we do? And we came up with a dumbbell idea to get the series of dumbbells, which was pretty cool. And then the blob series, which was also pretty cool. But we had to piece together the entire blob series because I only had up to the 100. Yep. And then I had the 130, 145, and 150, half of each one of those. So we needed to find the 105, 110, 115, 120, 125, and 135 and 140.
Yeah, the 135 was the toughest for us.
It was, yeah. But you were putting stuff out, and luckily you had enough connections with people that we were able to piece that together. But it was fun, man. It was fun.
It's almost like treasure hunt, you know, because you're looking for something so rare, and then to find it is so rewarding.
It's crazy with all that grip stuff, and we'll talk a lot about that and you know, kind of that world more. But let's jump in quickly with your kind of backstory, just so people get a sense of, you know, who you are, where you came from, that type of thing.
Sure. So I'm 40, so I'm just a year younger than you. We started Strongman about the same time. Prior to all that, you know, played high school sports, college, did football and track. I would say I probably excelled more in track and field.
You did that in college, football and track.
Football and track, yeah.
Nice.
So I was at the Division II level, so I was able to do both. And
what position in football?
Defensive, like tackle, defensive nose guard between the two.
Okay.
Yep.
And then how about track?
So then it's shot put and discus. And I excelled more at the shot put than the discus, but I was also, for that level, I was decent at the discus as well.
I mean, that's pretty good, man. At that type of level, to be able to do two sports is pretty crazy.
And that's what's cool about that level is it allows, unless you're like the elite of the elite, most colleges aren't going to let you do two sports, especially because track and field is technically two sports in itself. You have indoor track and outdoor track. So you're full year round, and then outdoor track is interfering with spring ball when you have spring practice and stuff like that. So the positive of doing the other sport is track gets you out of some of the conditioning for spring ball. You don't have to do that. So you go to the practice and stuff, but yeah.
Did your coaches care?
No, because I think if you're doing good at both, I don't think they can be mad, in my opinion. You know, like if you're excelling at both, you know, why not? If you were not doing good and I was a coach, I would be kind of like, that's kind of a waste of time. Yeah. In a sense. But I think the people who were doing it were all doing well enough where I think it made sense.
So I got excited about trying to do two sports, and mine would have been football and basketball.
Absolutely.
So the football coach was pumped, right? Because he was like, oh man, you know, and he was kind of talking to me a little bit on the side and saying, hey, we could bring you in, and maybe what we could do is take over kind of half of your scholarship. So basketball would be half, because I was on a full ride there. So they would be half and football would be half. My basketball coach did not approve of that. He was not okay with that. And it was one of those things where it was kind of disappointing, because it would have only been my junior and senior year of college.
Oh, sure.
So I was kind of at a point where I was like, hey, this would be fun to get in and just kind of see what I could do, whatever. And you always kind of have it in the back of your head. Like, I love basketball, don't get me wrong, but it was like, what could I do with football? But the door just never opened. And of course, I was not willing to give up my basketball and my scholarship and everything to be like, hey, I'm going to go try to play football now. You know, I mean, when you got your school taken care of, everything's done, it would not be very smart. So it's interesting that the coaches didn't have a problem. But I guess for the football coach, that's probably the higher risk activity anyway. Yes. So it's like, all right, if you're going to do track, what are you really doing? You're lifting, you're throwing.
Exactly.
It's not really a problem.
You're actually going to be more active than the other guys because you're nonstop training.
Yeah. So which one did you enjoy more?
I did truly fall in love with shot put and discus more. Because then after I was competing, I went right into coaching there at the university. Shot put and discus, hammer throw.
Kind of like a graduate assistant type deal, or?
So I started to do the graduate assistant, but then it turned into I started doing strongman by then, and it was too much. So I went right into just coaching, working part-time, and then full-time training strongman.
Gotcha. So when did the strongman? I mean, is that something that you thought about while you were in college and while you were playing, or how were you introduced to it? I guess I should say.
Yeah. So that the first year after college, I went right into coaching, and then I seen a local contest in the paper that they had just finished, and the front of the paper, guy pulling a semi, and I had watched World's Strongest Man as a kid, like everyone.
Okay.
But I was like, this is here, this is local, this is something I could do. And I'm like, how do I do this? How do I get involved or even get started? I guess is the best way to say it. How do you get started? And nothing like this would ever happen in any other sport, in my opinion. I reached out to the best guy locally, and at the time was Dave Austin, who had just got third at World's Strongest Man.
In 2008,
So you're taking the third strongest person in the world, sending them an email, and they respond. And was like, yeah, man, if you want to come up and train. I mean, I had explained hey, I'm not just a regular dude. I've competed in college. I'm coaching at the university. I'm well educated in this stuff. I'm not just going to come up there and I just want to meet you, type of thing. I actually want to train and get into this. And so he said, yeah, man, come up. And from there it started.
And where was he at that time? He was at training out of his house, right?
Yeah,
out of his
so
garage?
the house that you came to the last time. Yep. So big 3-car garage.
So did you ever go to his other place?
Nope. Only the house he's at now is the only one I've ever been to.
Okay, so I went to the one before, and that was cool because it was kind of like a detached garage setup, and that was fun, man. It was fun. We did some training there, in the street and outside his garage, and that was, I think, the first time that I had done a inch dumbbell and a blob, one in each hand, that I did a carry down the driveway and then back or something like that.
Yes, I seen that video.
Yeah, that was pretty cool, man. But we had some good times up there. So Dave's a great guy, and I mean, I feel like I've said that before, probably not on the podcast, but him and I kind of hit it off once I got into the sport and met him, and we trained together quite a few times actually, throughout my career and his career. So.
Because at the time, he was the guy, he had so much of the equipment. And that was the biggest thing, is what people don't understand is today's world, you can get equipment. But Dave would go and he would get measurements and get things made and have this and that no one else had, so he could actually train the events. And that was so important to him. And he was kind of one of the pioneers, I guess, at least in my opinion, of having that equipment and being more precise about stuff.
Yeah,
and
so you could actually prepare for the events.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, because a lot of times, even starting strongman, you would just show up and see what happens.
Right. You haven't trained for it. Yeah, you just jump in from training in a normal gym and then jump into the event. So that's cool, man. So you met Dave, got in the door there, and then started training with him at his place.
Yeah. So first time I show up, and this little guy is just kicking my butt in the tire flip. I'm thinking I should be
shouldn't
all right.
be that hard.
It shouldn't be that hard. And he's just whooping me, and I'm struggling and frustrated. And
how heavy of a tire do you remember?
780. So almost 800-pound tire, which now is nothing, but at the time, this is 2009, so it's a very good amateur tire, absolutely.
What kind of body weight were you at when you tried to start?
So started probably 270-ish.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, because it was a big deal for me to get up to 300.
So you had to work hard to get there.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So the fun part about Dave is he really motivated me. By our second training session, we went and did stones. And so
did you go to the boiler room?
So I went to the boiler room.
Okay.
And I show up with Jack Tack. I have no idea that Dave makes tacky. I have no idea. So this stuff is like maple syrup. Right?
Yeah, Jack Tack was, anybody that's familiar with Jack Tack is it's a very low level of tacky, basically, but it was kind of what you had access to. You know, Dave was a pioneer with tacky for sure, and making it better. And you know, I mean, it's what I wore throughout my entire career is Elite Tacky. You know, I mean, we still sell it on the website here. I still get it from Dave, and it's still, in my opinion, still the best. So, you know, when you have it all on the line, and you know, it's in my mind, a lot of the top guys still do choose to wear Elite Tacky,
absolutely,
in the contest, and that says a lot when you have so much on the line now. You have to stick. It needs to work. You know, that's kind of like you can talk about different types of tacky or whatever, but Elite is amazing. I guess that's my little plug for that. But
yeah,
you know, it's interesting that you went to the boiler. So the boiler room was where Dave trained stone. So it's down underneath
apartment
complex. And so you go down in this room, and how he got everything down there.
No, I don't know. I don't get it.
I have no idea.
Because
like,
there's a 500-pound stone down there.
Yeah. It's probably still, it has to still be down there. Yeah. Because you're not getting that out unless you break it, or because the stairs are not big.
No.
Going down there. Yeah.
Okay. So we do my first stone training.
How was that?
And it was terrible. So I watch Dave. I'm just going to do whatever he's doing, right? He doesn't put no sleeves on, no tape on his forearms. So I do the same. Just go straight tacky to the forearm. And by the end of it, my forearms are just screaming red, like stone burns, like concrete burns, just beat up, right? And I'm like, okay, well, this sucks, but whatever. This is just part of the deal. We get back in the truck. We're heading back to his house, and he's like, yeah, I gotta go MC this contest, this pro-am type contest. There's just 2 pro guys, local pro guys, and a bunch of amateurs doing like a little tiny pro-am. You should come watch it. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'll drive down. I was living in the college town, so I drove back there, and it was like an hour away. And he's like, you know what? He's like, why don't you just compete?
So how long had you trained?
So this is second day of training, within like 7 days.
Okay.
And he's like, you should just do the contest. What am I going to say to Dave? Oh no, like, you know,
you're going to step up and do
I'm just like, all right, well, this is Dave Austin. Like, he just got third at Worlds. Like, absolutely, man. Like, all right, let's do it. So I show up, and I do way better than I think. The top 2 pro guys, they get first and second. Then there's 1 amateur, and then I got 4th out of like 10 or 12.
Okay. So not bad.
No, and it helped that there were some moving events because I had just finished training at the college, so my conditioning's good.
Yeah.
My mobility's great. My explosion's good. It was just like tough things like cleaning a heavy log was hard because I wasn't used to that. I'm trying to power clean it.
So technique-wise, you're going to be behind for
just
sure.
Raw. I'm sure I look just awkward out there. But then I think he saw that, and I think I proved to him like, hey, you know, this guy's going to train. And so from there, we started training 2-3 times a week, as much as I would drive up to his house, about an hour 15 drive.
One way.
One way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so driving a lot, and that's where like the whole doing the grad school thing wasn't going to work. And my mind was just, I was bit, man. I was fixated on this.
Sure.
And this is all I wanted to think about and do.
Of course.
So
once you get in like that and you get excited, it's tough. It's tough to have other things, and you have to prioritize what's important. And a lot of people don't understand that. And you know, the commitment level too, to drive that far. So an hour and 15. So now you're talking about a round trip of 2.5 hours to make it happen, plus the time to train. So it's a significant commitment, big time.
Well, and think, you're young, you don't have a great job, you're spending all this money on gas,
yes,
and now you're eating more and all this other stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it consumed me, and everything I did was just to fund it, pretty much.
Sure.
You know,
So you're pouring it back in.
absolutely.
But having a resource like somebody like Dave would be really good.
Priceless. Bro,
Yeah.
I couldn't, I mean, have all the equipment, the knowledge. The coolest thing is Dave never asked me for $1 for training, never asked me for anything.
Yeah.
It's just, he just kind of took me under his wing. And so I try to duplicate that with people too, is like helping people,
Yeah.
because he easily could have.
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of the best in the world at the time. And to just be like, oh yeah, come over, train. No big deal.
How many people did he have coming to train consistently?
2 to 3 other guys. And that's the thing, and you probably understand it, is I would say, and I talked to Dave about this about a lot, is 80 to 90% of the time it's just me and him.
Yeah.
Because a lot of guys,
even back then. Yeah.
because people couldn't cut it, man. They come one workout and get destroyed. I don't want to do that. It's not fun.
Yeah. It takes a different person, is what I would say, to get bit like that, where you're so excited and you love it, and your pain tolerance is high, and you get beat up, and the next thing you're thinking about is, all right, I want to go do it again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's different. It's different. And I'm sure, if I could guess, and obviously Dave isn't here to answer this, but what I would say is he probably saw that in you, and maybe the contest, jumping headfirst into it, was a test for you, and you passed that test.
Yeah.
And then you showed up, and then you came back. And so you would find out very quickly, just like I would if I had somebody come. You find out very quickly what they're all about and what they're made of. And to have somebody in your corner and willing to go through that, willing to push and be there, it's as much of a resource at that time, I'm sure, for Dave as it was for you, right? And you probably didn't understand that back then or see that.
No.
But in hindsight now, I think it probably makes a little bit more sense, where he's got this guy come in that's hungry, that's motivated. It's going to make him better. It's going to help him to train harder and to push through a little bit harder when you're there. And especially if you'll show up consistently, now that's next level, because good training partners are so incredibly difficult to find, crazy hard to find. And that's, for me, throughout my career, I would say that same thing. I mean, if I had somebody, and I did have a couple different people that would show up like that were consistent, that were all the time. You never had to think about picking up your phone and saying, hey, I'm not going to make it, or I'm not coming, or whatever. There was no excuses. It was just like, hey, it's time to train. You're going to be there. I know I'm going to be there, and let's do it. And so if you have that in your corner, man, things are good, right? It's hard to find, though. Incredibly hard to find.
Yeah. Yeah. And now that you say it was probably so important, because training by yourself at that level, crazy hard.
It's tough, man. And I've kind of gone through all the phases now, and, gone from having a little bit bigger group, where that was amazing, because you had that group where everybody was showing up, everybody was consistent, everybody was motivating, and the energy would just go up. So even if you had a bad day and you're like, man, I'm a little bit tired, I'm a little bit off, you'd walk in and other guys are bringing it, so you have to bring it. Mm-hmm. And then the level goes up, so you always get better. So when you're by yourself, it can be good if you're self-motivated, but even for the most motivated individuals, it is hard consistently when you're training by yourself to pick it up. So even if you have one other person, and that's what I always said, is if I could have one good training partner that was consistent, I would take that over a group of 10 that wasn't that good, or wasn't, if you have that big of a group, sometimes there's the side things that are going on and everybody's not quite that focused. So a smaller group and or even one can make a world of difference.
And it worked out well, because we eventually, once I got to a higher level and started doing pro shows and stuff like that, we were doing a lot of the similar shows. So we were training the same stuff. We're hitting, we're essentially doing the same workouts. And now certain events I might be better at. So now it's pushing him, because and I think he admitted, like, at times, like, his pressing was one of his weaker events. And so I was, at certain events, I was very good at the pressing, a Viking press, even the circus dumbbell, pushing him to go. And he needs that in training.
Yeah.
And
how long did it take you to get from where you started to get to that level?
All right. So my first contest, 2009, and then I qualified for nationals. At that time, there's only one strongman organization. And so this is going to be, that qualifies you. The top 15 at nationals qualifies you for the Arnold Amateur. It'll be the second year of the Arnold Amateur. Winner of that goes to the Arnold Pro. So I show up to the Arnold Amateur, and there's like just a crazy amount of competitors. And I go to the rules meeting, and I'm blown away because it's an amateur contest, but there's Hafthor, who's been doing like Giants Live type shows, Mateus Barone, all these top level guys from other countries because they don't necessarily have a pro system
to get in.
Yeah. And so, because at the time, I think we're the only country with an amateur system, you know? So that's kind of where it started from there. And then I started doing, Dave would do some like pro-am stuff at his place, some smaller stuff, and I would do well there. And then Chad Coy, of all people, needed, he was just doing a small expo in his city, and I got to go there and met Chad. Chad had, a few weeks later, had to pull out of North America's Strongest Man.
In Canada.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's like, hey, well, I got this guy who just came to my show, super strong kid, up and coming. And so I got into there with Hugo Girard.
Yes.
And so that's where it all started for me, because I was happy, and a lot of people won't like this, but then I just kind of went around the system that they had in America, only in America, and went more off like a Jerry Pritchett type route where I don't, if I don't need you, why am I going to give you, you know, money, all this other stuff, do your stuff, when I can go to a contest and make money?
Yeah. Well, if you can get those invites and go do it, it's an open door.
Yeah.
You know, so I met you in 2009.
Yes.
So I went out to train with Dave before World's Strongest Man in 2009. And it was me and Dave and Kevin, me.
Yep.
And so we had set up like this training. And I think the first day I met you was at the truck pull.
Yeah. So my hometown, I had a buddy that his family owned a construction company. And so he brought out a big dump truck with a trailer. And on the trailer, he's got a Bobcat and then like some kind of like big hopper for like mixing stuff, right?
It was ridiculous. Yeah.
And so I don't know the exact weight. But we found a great course, very secluded little area.
Yeah.
No one came and watched, just my family came and watched. And that was the start of experiencing real heavy weights.
For you.
For me.
Okay.
Is when you guys came out and Dave's training for 2009 World's Strongest Man.
Yep.
And so, because I had just started then. So to backtrack a little bit, I had just started showing up with Dave, and then you guys show up and the real weights had came out.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. That was fun, man. It was a lot of fun because we went through, and that truck pull, I remember that truck pull being really good. It was a really good course, really good weight, heavy, you know, how
it's supposed to be.
How a real truck pull is supposed to be. Yes.
I know you finished it. Me, the other guy that was there, and then Kevin couldn't finish it.
Kevin didn't finish it.
I believe Dave did, but like I think Dave like went maximum. Like,
yeah.
Like was completely gassed after. Like it was the real deal.
Yeah.
But what was your truck pull like that year at World's Strongest Man? I can't remember. Because I know
2008 was, and obviously this is prior, was really tough in the qualifiers. They did it was kind of a dump truck.
Was it filled with coal?
Coal, and it was heavy. It was really heavy, hard. Some guys had a hard time starting it.
Yeah.
In 2008 in the qualifiers, and then 2008 in the finals was the Hercules C-130 transport plane, the big, and they tested that.
You tested it, right?
I tested it, yeah. So that was an interesting one because I went out to test it, and then I was actually like the alternate for the final because I didn't make the final in 2008, my first year. So we had kind of the qualifier wrap up party. They used to do that, which that does not happen at all now. It used to be kind of fun because all the guys that didn't make the finals got to hang out, and you know, some of the guys that made the finals would come, and then they would typically leave a little bit sooner. And so I had definitely stayed up later than I should have, and I was going down this first day of the finals, and I'm just watching because nobody had pulled out, and they asked me to get my truck pull shoes and test the plane that morning, and I was like, I didn't have a good breakfast. I stayed up late, and I'm like, well, whatever.
But you're new. You can't say no, right?
No. I'm out there. I'm doing it, man.
Yeah.
But then the thing is, too, is the crowd had came the crowd had already showed up, and they're like, all right, we got to test this thing one more time to make sure it's correct, because the plane, they were messing with the inflation of the tires and the course and everything you should do
Absolutely.
to have a good truck pull. And so I said, well, all right. So I went out there and you know, pulled the whole thing, and I was not in a good spot to do that, but I did it, right? Because you take the opportunity. And it was awesome to do it in front of the crowd and all that. And I think my time would have actually been okay in the final, like compared to the guys, because they all, of course, I could compare it because they went right after me. But you know, obviously disappointing to not make the final, but it was neat to have that opportunity. In 2009, we did a plane in the final that year.
Okay.
So it was a smaller plane, you know, kind of like just like a commercial plane, but it was okay. It wasn't super tough to pull. Like that pull that we did in training was harder than it, which of course you want to prepare and be ready. But I was ready for whatever with the truck pull in 2009. So that was good, man. It was we had a really limited time in 2009 to get it done because the plane had to leave. So I remember they were really pushing hard, and there was got to have all these stories of like the plane pulls, but there was a rainstorm that came in while we were doing the pull, and you could see it coming, and I'm like 2 out, and I'm like, all right, come on, let's go. And then of course the rain starts right before I'm going to go. I'm walking out there, and I'm asking, I'm like, hey, can we wait a little bit? Because it had kind of been a situation where the rain would come, then it was real quick, and then it would clear out, and then the sun would come out, and it was all dry. And they're like, nope, we have no time to wait. It's just your luck of the draw. You have to go. And I was like, oh man, this is, so I did it. I luckily I didn't fall down or didn't slip, you know, too bad or whatever, but it dried up. Like it was like the rain had just selected me for that time, and it just happened to come right when I was. And then after that, it was maybe a little wet for the next guy, and then dry, completely dry. And I was like, okay, you know, my first final, of course this happens, but you know, you have to be prepared for whatever situation and just go out and go for it, you know. So that was an interesting one, but I was definitely ready for the pull in 2009. But that training it was fun up there, man. It was fun. Like you set that up, and David set up all this different stuff. Like we went down to this beach sand area to do a loading race in the sand, and we had to carry the kegs and all of that down the whole beach, and it was almost harder to get it down there to set up the train. It was crazy, but you know, it was fun, man, because you're prepping for a big event, and you have this group, and it's training to make each other better, of course, but you're pushing that level, right? So that was fun. It was a lot of fun. I had a really good time with it.
Yeah. No, and Dave he's so quiet in a sense, but he had it all planned perfect.
Yes.
And that is so important for you guys showing up and having all that stuff ready. And it showed in your training, because you show up and you go from not making finals, now you're third.
Yeah, the final was a big one, man. Like for me, because it was, you know, 2009. I would say that actually that year for me, I had won the Fit Expo, which we were told was a qualifier to get in the Arnold. And then that got kind of pulled away from me. So I did not earn my spot to the Arnold by winning the Fit Expo, even though we were told that at the start of the contest, which kind of wasn't great. And then Fortissimus was the big one, actually. So I got invited to compete in Fortissimus in 2009, and I had got third there. And then I remember going into World's Strongest Man in 2009, the big talk was that Zydrunas was coming back, because he actually didn't compete in 2008 because the IFSA split.
Yep.
And then Pujanowski coming in, obviously, you know, returning champ, and how was this going to play out between those two? And then Derek Poundstone actually was right in that mix too. So I remember reading all these articles about how it was this 3-horse race, which frustrated me. I'm sure it frustrated Dave too, because coming off of 2008, he was third. So, you know, he was coming in, like, obviously wanting to improve on that as well.
Absolutely.
So I think the level with the training definitely, you know, paid off for me. And, you know, going into it, you have to prep hard to be ready for that. But it was neat, man. It was neat to prove that I was capable and to come out of Fortissimus third, and then World's Strongest Man third in 2009, and then, you know, arguably, I guess in hindsight, maybe the best podium ever at World's Strongest Man with, you know, Zydrunas and Marius and myself there, which was neat. And you don't know it at the time, right? Because it's kind of like this, you know, you're getting your feet wet. But that really, I think at that time, that solidified going against, because that was a good final top to bottom.
That's one of, to my opinion, that's probably one of the most stacked.
It was stacked
finals.
up.
If you can look at what all those people have done throughout their career,
total accomplishments.
All those guys in there, unbelievable.
Yeah, it was fun, man. It was a neat setting too. Like the backdrop in Malta was really cool, and yeah, there's a few moments like I remember from that contest that, you know, you won't want to forget. But I learned a lot there as well. You know, just about competing and making the final, and World's Strongest Man was incredibly difficult to what it is now. So it's a lot longer. It was a lot longer contest, and then there was 7 events in the final that year, which, you know my opinion on that. We should have more events anyway. But yeah, just keeping some gas in the tank, you know, toward the end, because it was hard. The last couple days of the final were hard for me because I had wasted so much energy in the qualifier that I probably didn't need to.
But at the time, you didn't know.
No. Yeah, you didn't know. So that's good memories, man. It's good memories. So that was your first kind of get your feet wet with.
Real taste of like what strongman is. Like you see it and you're like, oh, I could maybe do that. Like this was like, holy buckets. Like I got to turn things up. Like,
yes.
But I want to do it.
Yeah.
So it was so motivating, you know, but it was also like a wake up, like, all right, you got to get more serious about this. And that's where, like I said, like I couldn't do like school at the time. Like I was just bit, man. I had to do it.
Which is awesome. It's awesome. So you kept training with Dave, and then your first time it was like the North America Strongest Man.
Yeah, so I got into there, and then from there, you know, then
that was in
2010 or 11-ish.
Did I compete in that one?
No, I didn't compete. From my knowledge, I don't think you came up there till 2014 or 15.
Because I had tied with Jess and Paulin in 2008 or 8 or 9. Okay.
So yeah, you went up there way before me.
Yeah,
probably, yes.
And then I, for whatever reason, I didn't go back for. I think it was kind of a conflicting date with. It might have been conflicting with World's Strongest Man. I can't remember what it was, but I think I went back in 14. Is that right? Because you were there.
14 or 15. Was it?
I think it was 14. That might have been the last year that it happened, or one of them.
14 or 15.
I should. Yeah. It all blends together a little bit, but I'm pretty sure it was 14. I'm pretty sure
that sounds right. Because funny story. I remember you came down to my hotel room, and I'm watching World's Strongest Man on TV.
Yeah.
And it's the finals, and it was, so you had 1 in 13. Yeah. And so 13 was playing in. Does that sound right? I want to say it was maybe 15. You just had 1 in 15. It was on TV.
Okay.
And then you came in and you were on TV competing, winning it. And I was like, this is just so ironic.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, it's a crazy.
Yeah, moment. that was a good contest up there, man. When it happened,
like you said, it's hard, it's heavy, and it's a lot of events.
Yeah,
I want to say we do 9 events over 3 days.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, the crowd was crazy. It was so
the fans up there are awesome.
Yeah, in Canada, it's great, really, really good. So that was, how many years did you do that, or how many years did you compete in strongman?
So 2009 to 2015, I think that was one of my last shows. Was with you, I believe. Because then July 2015, I had back surgery. Like it was like things just weren't going right. Like putting on socks, getting up, walking. Like,
did that come on? Was it an injury, or did it come on gradually?
So I think I like, you know, herniated a disc in high school.
Okay.
And then from there, it just like I got stronger, and it kind of like masked it. But then as the weights just got crazier and heavier,
yes,
it started to show itself again.
Okay.
And got worse and worse. And I just think the yokes were, as you know, we're just getting heavier and heavier. I remember going up to Canada, and we have a max yoke.
Yes.
And you know, it's like 20 feet, which don't sound far, but
with the big weight, it is far.
With the big weight, you know, and this is this is 2011. And so we're doing 1,100 some pounds. And at the time, that's a big weight.
Yes.
And so, and I think that just started to pile up, and my back was like, I can't do it.
Yeah. So you had back surgery though.
So yeah, 2015, it was so bad. They call it like a discectomy, and they cut out part of the bone that goes around the nerve to free up that space. So that nerve is inflamed, right? So it's enlarged.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have room to breathe per se. So they take out part of that disc and then just kind of clean up everything. And it essentially buys you time, because your body's going to heal in a sense, but that bone's going to grow back.
Yep.
Right? Because your body's smart. It's like, hey, well, that's missing, so it's going to fix it. So it buys you time. And what I learned, the stuff I needed to do after, or the things that aggravated it, I learned my legs, my back, everything was so strong, but my glutes were weak. And so I think my back was doing so much work, getting overloaded because my glutes were weak. I would squat low. I would, when bending over for strongman, a lot of back and not hitting enough glutes, where now we know we have all these different machines for hitting glutes, the reverse hyper, the back attacks, different stuff like that. Yeah. That hit the glutes. And I think that was, it just over time, it gave out because of a weakness.
Makes sense. So how was it recovering from that?
I started off good, but then it was learning like, hey, I can't do that exercise. Like if I would do like a regular leg press, like how you guys do at the contest, where my legs come back and open up my spine and then push it and close it, like that was not good. So I couldn't do that.
Interesting. Did you, when you had the back surgery, was your goal to recover from that and come back and try to do more competing, or were you like, hey, I'm good, I don't want to compete anymore? Yeah.
So in my head, I thought 100% coming back. Like this is gonna be the fix in a sense, and I'm gonna get back to training. At the time, I was still strong, man. Like I would still go to the gym and press great numbers. Yeah. And then it was just every week I was trying to slowly build up, like real slow build up the deadlift, like start at a higher height and then slowly work my way back down. Like I was legit doing it smart. It's just certain things would just, and I wouldn't know until the next morning I wake up, and then like I couldn't put on my socks.
That's interesting. Move. So it wouldn't hurt during.
In the moment, not really. No.
Okay.
But I think it would aggravate it, and then it would just get more and more inflamed.
Makes sense.
As it go. And then I think being laying down for too long, if you sleep, for that, and then just not motion, not moving, no blood flow really. Yeah. And it would just get more agitated.
Yeah. So at some point, did you have to say, hey, this isn't working, trying to come back? And then you're done with it.
So that's when I realized, like, bending over, picking up stuff, like even now, just bending over, it doesn't necessarily hurt. It's more so the range of motion, the flexibility. Also, the next day, I want to be able to put on socks and do stuff, get to work. Otherwise, like, it's just, and your attitude's affected by it so much. When you're in pain and you can't move. And so, like, I wasn't fun to be around when it wasn't good.
Yeah. Well, it's frustrating because you wanted to do something, and you had goals. I'm guessing to come back, and you're working hard for it, and then to wake up and be in kind of constant pain, where you go and train and put the work in, and then you wake up in more pain. That would play with your head, and mentally, you're wanting to put the work in, but then it's giving you this feedback where it's just constantly not good. So at a certain point, you have to listen to what's there and what your body's telling you.
Yeah. So then it came to realization, like, what can you do? Like your brain, your heart is invested in this, but how do I stay involved? How do I keep doing this without kind of still doing this? Just because strongman wasn't something like, hey, I'm going to do this for a little bit and that's it. Like at no point, that wasn't how my brain was going to like go into this. Like it was all in like a long thing. So it was like, how do I stay involved? And so it came to, starting to put on contest and doing grip stuff. And grip stuff was like something we would just do at the end of training.
Yep.
And then social media comes around. And so I just do little tricks here and there at the end of workouts. Like, everyone thinks like, oh, what do you train for grip? It's like, I just do a video at the end, man. I just think of something up.
Yeah, and try it.
And so that started sticking. So that would motivate me too, because I'm going to go and train. And now let's figure out some things we can do. Let's try some different feats of strength. Let's put on contests. Let's start doing a little bit of training. Let's stay involved as much as we can without actually being a competitor.
Which makes sense, right? So kind of you get to scratch that itch, so to speak.
Absolutely. You're still involved. You're still helping the sports, and you're still helping people.
Yeah. So the grip took off from there. So you I'm guessing you put out a video or two and people liked it and it was interactive and you got a lot of feedback. And then from there, it's something, because I know Dave and he had all the grip tools around and, you know, a blob, an inch dumbbell and, you know, things like that you can mess around with. So I'm sure you got exposure to those things with him. And then, you know, from there, it's just taken off and building it up. So did you start with, at the beginning when you did those things, how hard was it for you to pick up an inch dumbbell or to pick up the blob? Was that something you could do out of the gate, or was it something you had to work for?
All that stuff I could do right away.
So when you walked in there the first time, like out of getting done
Hey,
playing,
try this.
you could do it.
Do it, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And there's a lot, I think there's a lot of guys like that in strongman, because what they don't understand, and I try to explain to people, is like, do you want to help your grip? Like, so much of strongman, man. You do like arm over arm with the rope. You do farmers. You do a farmer's hold. You do any kind of static hold.
Yep.
You know, getting ready for that stuff. I think a big thing is sandbags, like grabbing that extra material and having to squeeze that on objects, picking up different stuff. Like you're using it without even knowing you're using it.
Yes. So you build it up through the training.
Built it up big time through all the training without even knowing it.
Yeah. So you just kind of expanded on that now, right? So I'm guessing it's still fun for you to think up different things to do, and you'll text me about, hey, look at this or try this or whatever, and it's always you know, now it's been like the plate flip and catch, and you know, now it's kind of expanding on that and making it a little bit harder. So it's kind of seemed to progress from level 1 to level 2 to level 3 and see what you can do, right?
Yeah, and so a part of it too is me learning more about different history of different things, learning about different plates, finding out about different plates, old plates, and seeing what people have done with those and trying to mimic it or improve on it.
Yeah. Yeah, take it up a level. So what is your favorite grip feat or type of grip strength?
I would say 100% I excel at like hub picking up plates by the hub is my number one thing. Then for some of the thick bar stuff, for some of the thicker stuff handled, like the dumbbells, I struggle with just hand, like finger length. I don't have it, or like the bigger blobs, I don't have it. I feel like for some of them, I would have the strength. Like I feel like for sure I could do like a Blobzilla.
Okay.
But it's just limited by the finger strength or the finger length.
So for people that don't know and are listening as we're talking about this, the hub, if you look at a 45-pound plate, it's the center where it would slide onto the bar. So that's the hub. So you'd put it face up and then just grab that center part to pick the plate up. And then Blobzilla is half of a 130-pound York Legacy dumbbell. So you cut the end off and then try to pick up just that chunk of metal, basically the end. So a big grip feat. There's a very limited number of people that have done that, and you know, you've seen me do it in the gym with the grip blob series and that type of thing. So the expansion though with grip and thinking about what's possible, I think is what's always been fun, right? Because it's something where there are a lot of different implements that you can mess around with. And then like, for example, with the hub lifting, if you want to take it up, it's getting to that level, and then you want to put some plates on the hub and see how heavy you can go, or like you're doing with the flip and catch, picking it up, putting it above your head in one motion, like things like this. It's fun as we start messing around. It's kind of a game of, can you top this? What
I think people are intrigued by it is they can go to the gym and try it. They don't need a grip implement. They have every gym has plates. They necessarily might not have the ones I have or you have.
Yeah.
But they can usually find some kind of hub plate and put their fingers on it and feel it and be like, okay, like that's the real deal. Like that's not easy.
Yeah, like pinching 10-pound plates or something, right? Like you could start with that or 25s, and big grit feet is being able to do the 45s, especially like a York. And we talk a lot about and the strength history. So the York barbell in general has a lot of history to it. So a lot of the grit feeds, for me at least, I get excited about that because I love old York equipment and obviously like the dumbbells and plates and bars and all the stuff from them is fun, right? And I like that. Some of the younger guys may not understand that quite as much, but it's exposing them to it, right? So the type of plate that some of these grit feeds are done with is a big deal. So it's not necessarily apples to apples. It's like it's a 45-pound plate, but how is the hub? How big is the hub? How shallow is the hub? And, we were messing around actually yesterday in the gym, and Joel, when he came out, found some really cool Jack LaLanne plates, which are 50-pound plates, which is kind of cool. It's different than, obviously now you find 45s, 20-kilo plates or 45-pound plates if you're in the States. And those are much more common. So a 50-pound plate is rare, and it's old. And we threw them on the scale yesterday, and they're almost 5 pounds different, which was crazy. And then the hub size as well from plate to plate. There's 2 plates, but they're 5 pounds different, and the hub is different. So each plate is unique. And even with the York plates, same thing. The hub can be different, feel different, have a little bit different angle or size.
Texture.
Yeah. And so all of this comes into play with grip, and it's very unique in that aspect.
Oh yeah. What's so cool about it is I'll have all these different plates or different size blobs that people can try.
Yes.
So everyone gets a shot at it. It's not just me lifting this big weight or you lifting this big weight. Like everyone can try and see what they can get to, so it makes it more interactive for everyone.
Yes. And you can scale it up. I mean, obviously we're talking about the top level grit feeds, kind of like the gold standard, if you will, of being able to do this, but you can scale it down. And there's always something a little bit smaller, a little bit easier to kind of work your way up. And then you can get into it that way. But the one thing that I found, and I've been around at different expos or events where there's been grip involved, people love it. And it's something that's very addicting because you think you can lift something, and especially if it's not super big or imposing, a lot of people think they should be able to do it. And so they'll try, and then they'll want to try again.
And they'll keep going.
And so it is fun in that capacity, because even a normal person, maybe they're not a avid gym goer or something like that, but they like to try. And they worst case, hey, I'll throw a little bit of chalk and I'll just see how it is. And then if nothing else, they get a understanding of how difficult things are. And it's neat. And we got to see this at the Shaw Classic, where people got to come out of the crowd during the grip feats and try and give it a go, right? Like just see what it is. And I think we could probably expand on that, in the future to maybe put something at the expo as well, so more people could get their hands on it, and maybe have some type of grip series or something, where people like to try, man, but that was cool. It's fun to see normal people try. And then you have the experts come out, the guys that are competing, and go to the next level, and everybody kind of gets a perspective of what's possible. And people have asked about, even in the strongman contest, to kind of have a average man come out and try something to get a perspective. And in the strongman, that's not really quite as feasible, because the weights are so big that what are you going to have somebody come out and just not move something?
Yeah.
It's not really the same. But they used to do that on the History Channel show when we would do something. We would always call it the average man. And it was just one of the guys from the crew, and he would come out, and it was like, hey, Ian was his name, but come out, give it a try. And normally he couldn't do anything with it. And then it was like, okay, thanks, and we go back. But it at least gave the viewers or somebody watching a perspective of like, hey, this guy's a pretty average, normal size. So number one, you get to see him next to us, the size difference. And then he gets to try to lift it. We can't move it. So it's like, okay, it's obviously heavy. So it's almost like our verification, but then perspective for viewers watching. So the grip thing, having normal people come down and try is also a good thing, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Because the other thing is the rarity of it. Like, I mean, there's not many out there, and to go try it is very uncommon. So for people that would come down there and be able to try it,
yes,
it's huge.
Yep. And that's the thing is, I guarantee some of those people that did try are going to talk about that, right? Like they got to touch it, or because we were having them do an inch dumbbell for my gym.
Yeah, yours.
So it's like the same dumbbell that you see me lift that I've lifted. Now you get to try, and if you can lift it, it's just fun, man, right? And I wish that, obviously I had to be in competition mode and back, but it would be fun to interact with more of those people in that way,
Yeah.
So what do you think of what's next for you, man? What's next with grip? Like I think it's fun for you to have that outlet. I mean, it's we haven't talked a lot about the mental side of that, but it seems like you're the type of guy that if one door closes, you're going to figure out a way to open up another one and go down that path. And so competing in strongman, I would imagine there had to be a period where you were fighting that with your back and dealing with trying to come back, not being able to quite fully be able to do that, and almost have to hang up that hat, right? Hang the shoes up and say, well, gosh, I can't come back to, this competition that I want to. So you're dealing with that, but now you found a different fun outlet with the grip and staying involved, like you said, to kind of fill that cup up. But what has that transition been like? And then maybe talk about like what's going to be next, or what are you thinking about?
Yeah, so that transition, that outlet, that competitive thing is always going to be there. Like it's not going to go away. Like so you have to do something, man. Like, and what I like about it so much for me is it keeps me on track with everything. Like I have to go work out. I have to eat this. I have to do that, right? It's meticulous. It's monotonous, but it keeps you kind of going and motivated. And so that part I really like because it keeps me on track and it keeps my head level. And to find something as good as strongman, I'm not going to, but I think with doing some grip contests, working towards different grip feats, finding new plates, that's been my biggest thing lately is treasure hunting for new plates for different things, finding that stuff. That's awesome because not only is it awesome to find it, but now what can I do with it? What has anyone else done and what can I do more?
Yeah. Well, you've helped me with the treasure hunting as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Carrie loves it. I promise you.
She loves it. Loves.
She's always like, "Oh, who are you talking to, Joel? Okay, what has he found now?
What's he got?"
If any of you guys watch the dumbbell video of the York dumbbells, Joel actually helped facilitate that, and I'm not going to say who I bought them from because I don't think he wants me to say.
Yeah.
But I definitely appreciate them, man. They're awesome. I look at them every time I go in the gym, and they're one of my favorite things. So, that's neat. But the older weights, man, there's something about the older weights that is super special, and people that have an appreciation for it. It's interesting for me to have people walk in the gym that understand what those dumbbells are, mm-hmm. or what the weight plates are, whatever are in there. They lose their mind, right? Like I would be the same. Mm-hmm. So some people walk in and they have no idea, and that's okay too, because the perspective is different. But like I said, I appreciate you helping me facilitate that deal.
Yeah.
And Carrie is excited. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's just I come with a new idea a lot, and she gets on board, which I appreciate. But it's neat, man. It's such a neat culture and neat world. And the thing that I always think is, like, if some of these older weights could tell the story of their history, how neat would that be to hear?
Yeah, where they been? Who's lifted them? How did they get some look better than others? Like, what happened? What did that person use them for? What were they doing? Because at certain times, the earlier weights, what did they use them for? Were they just on some kind of farm equipment? Were they actually lifting them? Like, what was going on?
Yes, it's changed a lot, man. And that's what's so neat about it, is you don't know the history, but you know where they came from or where they were made, mm-hmm. and then they've had this life. And I like to think about that, because I lift with all the stuff that I have, I just like that. So it's like the
Have
old
to.
old weights, man. It's one thing to have them just sit there and not get used, but to actually be able to lift with them is special.
Yeah, man. Everything I buy, I use. I figure out how I'm going to use it. Certain things, like I will put certain plates on, like on a crash pad for when I do drop it, just because of the rarity and then the expense of replacing it is high.
Yep.
So, and I also have such respect for them. Like, how cool, man. Like, I don't want to wreck it.
Yes.
You know, especially like, to me, this is my first plate, you know, like for certain ones. And so I definitely baby them, but I absolutely use them as much as I can.
Yeah. So what do you think is next?
Man, I don't know. There's some new opportunities that are arising that I hopefully can get involved in, you know, especially even bring the Shaw Classic into it, doing more with that, expanding that grip stuff with it. I feel like that went over well. What we can do if we turn that into more of a full contest, or is it more of a grip feats, like actual true feats that we, you know, search up and we say, hey, like, do we have people try to clean the inch dumbbell and press it? Like, you know, where we take it from there, and expanding that more. So I think that's one really big thing that's super cool.
Yeah.
You know, especially what a lot of people don't understand, and I try to say as much as I can, is for the grip world, it's such a huge opportunity that you are allowing this, because you're putting it in front of 5,000 live people, okay? And then all the people in the live stream are getting to see all this stuff. And for the most part, a lot of those people understand it and they get it. And so it's so cool that this opportunity has arose for grip. And so that's why, like, to me, this is one of the bigger things. And to grow it, is it going to be a mainstream thing? No. But can it get more exposure? Can it grow? Can it get more people interested? Absolutely, man. That's what it drives me to do it and want to make it look so good, run so smooth, and just have that wow factor, you know, to put that attention to detail. And like you say, and to treat these guys well, man, to get to really separate it from everything else. Because right now, most grip contests are just online contests. I send in my results and then it's there.
Kind of see how you stack up.
And see how you stack up. But what I don't like about it is my equipment to someone else's is two different worlds. Like you were talking about plates. Everything is so different. Yes, they might be manufactured, but there's still imperfections. There's still, people can alter them. I don't know what's going on. But when you put it in a live, heavy, real grip contest and find out who legit has it versus different equipment, that excites me even more.
Yes. And I would agree 100% with that. And it's neat to see that. And you're getting to go head to head with somebody in that event on the same equipment, and you just get to see who's better.
And you are able to bring in people from around the world to the same venue. That doesn't happen here. Not in grip, not even close, man. Like I said, the closest we get is an online contest where these guys aren't traveling. The best guys in the world aren't traveling to the one same show. All the guys.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and that's I think the goal, right? It was to scratch the surface this year, but the goal really is to level up. It's I think the guys that participated this year, that even that was communicated to them, like, hey, this is the first time. We're just throwing it out there. We're going to see how it goes, see what we can do, and then next year, hopefully, we could take a step to make it better, make it more interactive, whatever that looks like. But it needs to come in stages, and the growth always has to come in stages because it needs to be sustainable and to be able to come back. And I think that's the neat part of doing it this way is the exposure is really cool. And I mean, that's by far and away, obviously, like you said, the biggest crowd that's ever got to watch some type of grip feat go down or happen in person, which is neat. And then you have the people watching online that probably some of them, or maybe even a majority of them, have never heard of that type of thing where it's, you know, a blob series or, you know, the thick handle dumbbells. Then you can kind of tell the history and, you know, the history of the blobs, the history of the dumbbells, and what was there and what we're up against and what you're trying to replicate. And you know, that's neat, man. It's strength history in front of people's eyes unfolding. And that's what's really cool. So even it's just implement one thing, but the history of it and the backstory of it is neat as well. And so for somebody like me, being able to lift history and compare, are you stronger or are you not stronger? Right? That's a very fun thing to be able to do. And so I hope we can bring some of that to life and we can find some old school, grit feats from history somehow that can be incorporated. And, over time you build it up, man, and have a really good time with it. So I think there's, like you said, there's a lot of excitement with so many different things. And I have to kind of tone it down for myself because you get too excited and then that excitement turns into costing
That's the thing.
a lot of money potentially to make it happen. But, I think people appreciate it. And when you have the love and passion for it, it's good to bring it out and good to be able to share it with the world. And I think people have a good time with that and they can see that as well.
Yeah, especially like you said, we were able to bring people down there to try it, man. Like, so it correlates more like, oh, wow, that's the real deal. Like these guys really, truly have some of the strongest grips in the world. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's neat, man. That's neat. Well, where can people find you and if they want to follow you and check stuff out?
Sure. So my Instagram, my TikTok, all of it is just at Joel Dirks. And so that's where my main posting is, Instagram and TikTok. A lot of different grip feats, little plate flips, hub pickups, different stuff like that. But yeah,
that's awesome, man. Well, we're having fun and we're going to do some different content as well. And maybe expose some more people to some grip while you're here, which will be kind of fun. So, stay tuned. I'm sure you guys will probably see some of that video content coming out, but appreciate you, man. Thanks for telling the story. And yeah, man, it'll be fun to see what you do in the future. And I'm sure you'll be challenging me to do some other grip feats as well.
It'll keep you motivated.
It will. And I have been motivated after some training we have done. So
good.
Hope you all enjoyed the episode. If you could do me a favor and share the episode, share any of the podcast episodes you guys enjoy. It really helps to get traction and spread the message to everybody out there, which is awesome. And hope you're all doing amazing. For now, go out and be great, and we'll check you guys later.